But Joe Biden, for the first time in 50 years, said what every Democrat believes, but he said it as president and on the debate stage. We want abortion no matter what, for no reason, sex selection, 40 weeks, birth defects, anything. We'll kill the baby anytime we want to. And that was Roe v. Wade. And Donald Trump came back and said, but Joe, that's what Roe v. Wade did.
All right, my friends. I don't even know where to start. That was such an epic disaster for the Biden campaign last night. And remember, they wanted this. One of their top surrogates saying last night that it was DEFCON 1. We have a serious problem. The media going nuts about this. Holy smokes. I kept saying something cataclysmic was going to happen. I'm sorry, after 7 days of resting at Camp David, I couldn't even fathom this. And now the media is out there. Hallie Jackson from NBC. Oh, you had a cold. You had a cold? That's your excuse? I mean, I get that they're trying to carry the water. My friends, that wasn't a cold. That was a disaster. Team Biden, remember, they probably are now regretting that they wanted this to happen. Even CNN couldn't help them. The panel is going to break this all down for us. A big thank you, by the way, to the over 70,000 people that joined us live last night after the debate. We'll do this again. This is why it's so important that you hit that notification button and that you subscribe on YouTube and Rumble. Obviously, we streamed across all platforms. You can see us every night on the first, but those live events are only, you'll be notified them if you hit the notification button when you subscribe. Thanks to everybody that joined us last night. It was a huge night. I love taking your questions. Look, Trump last night, he looked calm, rested, focused on the issue. Biden completely the opposite. I want to tell you that was all the good news. I'll talk about this with the panel, though. Here's the bad news. They're not done. They're not idiots. They know what they just saw. Think about this. The Steele dossier, the laptop suppression, the 51 intelligence agencies, the ballot removal, the bogus cases, the muted mics. You think the left is going to stop now? My friends, they know what a threat Donald Trump poses to them. Okay, they saw what happened last night. They are in freak out mode. They are not just going to roll over. They changed voting procedures last time. They're going to do something again. We need to keep our foot on the gas pedal. Remember, Biden tried to get pushed aside in 2016 by Obama. He's not going to listen to him again. If anything's going to happen, it's going to be because Biden himself does that. I want to get the panel to take a beat on this and figure it out what they think. There's so much to break down. Doug Collins is here, former congressman from Georgia. Hogan Gidley, who's at the America First Policy Institute, former deputy press secretary in the Trump White House, and Grace Curley, the host of the Grace Curley Show up there in Boston. Before we do that, I want to tell you about my great friends at 4 Patriots. Man, you never know when something crazy is going to happen, like the debate last night. Well, if something like an emergency happens, you're going to want to be ready. That's why you want to have the Patriot Power Generator 2000X in your house. If you've been watching the show, you know I have one. I don't want to be caught off guard. The Patriot Power Generator 2000X will power everything. Your refrigerator, your tablets, computers, TVs, medical devices, all the things that you need. It's completely portable. You can bring it around your house. You can bring it to a friend, a neighbor, a family member, a loved one. And it powers completely on solar power. You don't have to run to the gas station. You don't have to worry about fumes coming into your house. You can bring it into your house, no noise, no fumes. This is the unbelievable game changer, lifesaver in an emergency. Go to 4patriots.com/Spicer, 4patriots.com/Spicer. I'm just telling you, we all know something's going to happen, right? The power grid is going to get attacked. Natural disaster is going to strike. You will want to have the Patriot Power Generator 2000X in your house when this thing goes down. Check it out now. All right, let's get into the panel. All right, guys, here's the first thing I want to get to. And I don't even know where to start. I couldn't sleep last night. I was so excited for this panel. The first question, Hogan, and I want to just, I want to take this slowly. We've got time. Did Trump win or did Biden lose the debate? And be honest with me.
Yes.
Spoken like a good Trump box.
Both. Right out of the gate, this was a serious problem for Joe Biden. I thought they'd fill him full of, debate Viagra or State of the Union juice or something, and he'd be fired up, raring to go. He wasn't. And this was his debate, rules by Joe, for Joe. They were his moderators. It was his network. They leaked stories inadvertently, raising expectations of a Hollywood-style set, 16 camp counselors, experts in politics. just there to help Joe. They gave him one-liners. They prepped him for how Donald Trump would be if he was high up or low down. They gave him how to get Donald Trump into a down and dirty fight to try and trigger him. They said, hey, don't talk about your record because that's not really all that good. Everything was set up for Joe Biden. He literally stopped being president for 8 days at Camp David, and you got this. 13 minutes in, he lost his train of thought during a question, which we've seen him do a million times.
Making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare.
But I'm asking you, did Trump? If you had to say, like, let's take 100%, who won as much as who lost? Like, I think we're all probably going to say that Joe Biden lost, but there's a lot of people this morning questioning whether Trump won. I want to get your opinion.
Yeah, what's the difference? Trump did win. He pointed to all the failures of the Biden administration, not just immigration, but the economy, wars breaking out all over the world. He was very clear that didn't happen under my watch. Joe Biden out of the gate said, wait a minute, no servicemen died, no servicewomen died under my watch. Trump was like, wait, what are you talking about? We've had people die all over this world because of you. This was a systematic takedown. No one can expect Donald Trump to be like a Mitt Romney or a John McCain on stage and talk specifically about here and there. He speaks in ways the American people like. He went right at Joe Biden for failures up and down his entire administration. He talked about Joe Biden lying all the time with the Hunter Biden laptop and never receiving money from China. Those were really good moments for Donald Trump. And even when he had the chance to be mean, he was mean, but in a very strategic way. When Joe Biden, at that sentence, he kind of tailed off at the end, as he always does, and mumbled and didn't know what he was saying. And Trump goes, I don't know what he said. Joe, I don't even think he knew what he said.
I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either.
Grace Curley, did Trump win or did Biden lose?
I mean, I have to agree here. I think it's kind of the same thing. I think Trump was going to win if he was able to make this story about how incoherent Biden was last night. And that was very, very apparent. When I watch these things, Sean, it's like there's always going to be things you wish he hit, because there's things that we all care about that's different. Like, I kind of wish he had focused a little bit more on the hostages, the American hostages that Joe Biden never talks about. But that's me. That's because I have a few things that I talk about more than he does. So I agree with Hogan. It's like when you look at it, when you zoom out a little bit, it's hard to have any other takeaway besides, Trump won this. And Biden was just right from the beginning. And honestly, watching it, I was a little nervous going in because I am always one of those people who's like, I really hope he has some self-restraint. I agree with Hogan about the fact that there were moments where I thought for sure he would roll his eyes or he would be very disrespectful towards Joe Biden. And he wasn't. Like, I was rolling my eyes at home for a lot of those parts. He was able to kind of tamp it down. And something else I loved was that he was able to kind of enjoy himself, which I think is what really made him stand out in 2016. And he lost a little bit of that in 2020. When Biden called him a convicted felon for the first time, he got this like Cheshire-like grin on his face and he kind of just nodded. And it was very, listen, I'm not going to take what you're saying seriously. I'm going to let it roll off my back. As the night went on, you could tell things were starting to bother him more. He started to try to fit a lot into short amounts of times. Yep. But I think the most important part of that debate was the first 15 minutes. Yes. And Joe was the worst in the beginning, which really surprised me. Joe actually got a little bit better as the night went on. In the beginning, though, when everyone was just sitting down, pouring their glass of wine, tuning in, it was like this. It was hand over mouth. Oh my God, what is happening?
Yep. Doug, what did you think?
Look, I think they're both great. I got a couple, just a little bit different takes.
Okay.
Look, one, I think from the moment Joe shuffled out there, I was in a unique position last night. I didn't get to watch it. I listened to it. I was coming back from opening up a Trump office, and so I was on the road. But I got to see the first minute when they first came out on stage, and when I saw him shuffle and then grab the podium and look down and sort of mumble to the moderators, I said, whoa, this is not what they were expecting. And then Trump came out in his normal. Here's what I think. When somebody's committing political suicide, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to push. Yeah. And I think that was the best thing from Donald Trump last night. He didn't push. His first answer was as calm. And Hogan, we've all sat in rooms with him. That was as calm an answer as I've ever seen about economy and Social Security. He left it out there. And then when it turned to abortion, no matter what you thought about, now let's just take for a second here. Whatever you thought about Trump's answer from a pro-life perspective, I think it was very good. He was on point. Best I've heard him with specifics. And then here's something. We can't let this go, folks. We can't. I know everybody's going to talk about form. This is the Nixon-Kennedy issue. But Joe Biden, for the first time in 50 years, said what every Democrat believes, but he said it as president and on a debate stage. We want abortion no matter what, for no reason, sex selection, 40 weeks, gender, birth defects, anything. We'll kill the baby anytime we want to. And that was Roe v. Wade. And Donald Trump came back and said, but Joe, that's what Roe v. Wade did when he said it. So I agree. Look, I agree with Grace. This was done in 30 minutes. The rest was hubris. 30 minutes, this was over. When we did the Mueller hearing, if you remember that one, we knew that if we started off quickly and made sure that it looked as if Mueller was not capable of handling these questions and also didn't know what he put in the report, that the rest of the reporters would tune out. That's exactly what happened. 15 minutes in, we already started saying the tweets from the Democrats, this is a disaster. The last 30 minutes, nobody cared. They were already on Twitter.
All right, I hate to interrupt this conversation. It's going so well, but because Democrats have been in power, they have spent billions of dollars hiring tens of thousands of IRS agents. And these IRS agents, I mean, I'm not trying to scare you, but they're coming after us. They're going to call, they're going to write, they're going to knock on your door, and they're going to have these, what they call pay up notices. If you owe taxes, 10,000, 10 million, it doesn't matter how much. They don't care how much. They're going to go after you. They're going to go through every aspect of your life. Personal, business, it doesn't matter. This is not a cost-benefit analysis for them. What makes the most sense? They don't care if you only owe 5,000 or 10,000. They will come for you, and they will go through every aspect of your life. Do not answer that call or respond to that letter until you talk to my friends at Tax Network USA. Go to tnusa.com/Sean Spicer. Full name there. tnusa.com/Sean Spicer, or call 1-800-245-6000. But Tax Network USA has recovered over $1 billion for their clients. They can do the same for you. Do not respond to the IRS, please, 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 until you talk to the people at Tax Network USA. All right, back to the conversation and the recap of this debate. You know, a reporter asked me this morning on a radio interview, he said, well, what if you just read the transcript? Kind of like Nixon-Kennedy. And I said, guess what? No one did that. They all watched it, and that's what was the compelling piece.
It got worse.
That's what made it bad. And look, here's the thing. I was telling this, I did a live event last night right afterwards, and I had sort of delineated this thing minute by minute, and I'm like, okay, 9:44, he says abortion, and I was ready to break this all down. When I was watching the Democrats and the media react on Twitter, I was like, oh my God, this is as cataclysmic as I thought it could be. I mean, they said what we needed to say. And the reason I asked the question that I did at the beginning is this. When I got up this morning, everybody was leading with Biden doing a bad job, but they almost felt like they had to get a jab into Trump. They were like, and Trump lied. And so here's the thing that I thought was interesting. The same radio interview that I was just talking about, I said, well, what was an example? And he said, what do you mean? I said, well, if you're going to say the president lied over and over again, President Trump, give me an example and I'll respond to it, because you're just using a talking point right now. He said, well, Charlottesville. He said that wasn't true. I go, well, it wasn't. It was debunked. What next? And then they go, well, January 6th. I said, what did he say on January 6th that wasn't true? You might not have liked that answer. You know, and a lot of the media didn't, but he didn't say anything that was untrue. And I think that the media woke up last night and was like, oh, crap, Biden had a bad night. We just need to say something negative about Trump right now. Hogan, here's the twist I want to put in this. without getting too far into what I want to go with in terms of where I think this heads, do you think that we will regret this debate happening this early? Meaning, did we give the Dems potentially the chance to figure out, wow, we have big problems?
I think they knew they had big problems. I think this could have been a tactic to kind of expose it even more. Listen, it's an eternity till November. I'm sorry, guys. This was a great night for Trump, night for Republicans. But the Democrats want one thing, and that's power. Their every action is how do we gain it and how do we maintain it. If that means throwing an octogenarian to the side, they'll do it. Okay? If that means propping up Kamala Harris or Gavin Newsom, they'll do it. If that means letting in millions of people on our southern border to get them on the government dime so they'll vote for Democrats in perpetuity, a few people get raped, murdered along the way, whatever. It's fine, as long as they gain power. So I'm concerned to see what Democrats are going to try and do. But the dust will settle here, and I think Democrats kind of are rallying now. You've seen a lot of folks like Hakeem Jeffries, Gavin Newsom even came out and said, no, this is our guy, bad night, big deal. He's still a better president than Trump will ever be.
Are you going to be the next Democratic nominee?
No, our nominee is Joe Biden. I'm looking forward to voting for him in November. He's going to be our nominee.
Because you know that everyone are talking about you as a possible nominee now.
I think that's kind of where they're going to settle on their messaging points. The problem is it's much like with the border or much like with the economy. The reporters, the media, the administration is telling you, the American people, hey, what you feel, what you see, what you know, that's not real. You're too dumb. We know better. And when they saw what happened on that stage last night, the American people solidified that opinion. Even those that were on the fence, they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know he was this bad. Like I said at the beginning, no cheap fakes, no deep fakes. This was him at a podium, no edits. You saw him mess up on multiple occasions. And yes, you want to say Donald Trump lied? He didn't. As you said, Sean, I can go through lie after lie for Joe Biden. This was a disaster for them.
That was the other thing. I mean, listen, he got up there and said a bunch of stuff about prescription drugs, Afghanistan withdrawal, all this. And I'm like, if you're going to say that Donald Trump lied, then, okay, Joe Biden had a bad night and he lied. Like, Grace, are we going to regret, same question, having a debate this early?
No, because I don't think we had an option. Like Trump said, anytime, anywhere. They obviously knew that they wanted to give themselves more time. They wanted to do it earlier. But what I find interesting now is like, who's going to be doing this assessment of what's the better option? Because like Hogan said, the dust settles. They're all still rallying around him. You really have to weigh which one is more dangerous. Do we bring in a new person? Do we skip over Kamala Harris? Do we try to sub in Gavin Newsom? Or do we just hope for the best with Joe Biden? And the part about it that I think is really risky for them is that, let's say you do sub in Gavin Newsom, okay? He's got the hair gel. He's a little bit more presidential looking, whatever. People still are aware of the fact that for the past 4 years, the White House has lied to us, the media has lied to us, and now they turned on a dime this morning about the debate. They expect all of their followers to do the same. That's how I told people today, I said, there's two options here. Either you think that the White House and the people that surround Joe Biden and all of the Democrats are so obtuse that they don't see that this man is in cognitive decline. They're so stupid that they can't see that. They can't put two and two together. Or the only other option is that they're lying to you. And I don't know if that sits well with people. I don't know if I want to vote for a party that's pulling these kind of stunts in a presidential election. Either way, whether they keep them or whether they don't.
All right, Doug, I've been dancing around this. So let's just get to the elephant in the room. The chatter last night among Democrats is, can we, should we, are we able to replace Joe Biden? So what do you think?
Look, it is a problem. Look, last night, the death knell in many ways are the concerning point. Let me rephrase that. Concerning point for the Democrats was not between 9 and 10:30. The concerning point for Democrats was between 10:30 and 11:15, when you had every on CNN panel, MSNBC panel, everybody else start the replacement theory conversation.
By the way, hold on. I don't mean to interrupt you, but this is going to be so awesome because you just rebranded
replacement theory.
The replacement theory.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
Well,
First of all,
there's your replacement theory right there.
I hope that
the
was
replacement
you.
theory
I
is
hope
get
that
rid
was
of Joe
your
Biden.
idea, Doug Collins, because I'm giving you. Well, I won't give you. I'm going to steal it,
we'll
but I
steal
just.
it. 100%.
Go right ahead. Go right ahead.
Tucker
Look,
Carlson. By the way, Tucker Carlson's like, see, this is the replacement theory.
Yeah, it's to get rid of Joe Biden theory. And then you go into this morning when you have every New York Times columnist, opinion writer, basically say the same thing. That toothpaste is now out of the tube. No matter what happens, there's a 30-second ad in late October that reminds people of this night. Okay, even if he stays. So how does Joe Scarborough, who went on this morning and talked about how much he loved Joe Biden and now says it's time to get rid of Joe Biden, walk that back? How does Van Jones last night, who said how much he loved Joe Biden and now going to have to walk that back? They can't walk it back. Something would have to change, which means, by the way, I'm going to point out the basically what I say liberal reporters and how they've been dealing with this. Rachel Bade, Politico, actually said last night, this has been 4 months since the State of the Union. I've not seen basically in essence such a decline. I retweeted and said, imagine what it's going to be like in 4 more months. And for those of us who've actually dealt with those who have cognitive issues, there's two things that pointed out to me last night. Number one, we've seen this before. It's not deep fake. It's real. But number two, did you notice after really Joe Biden began to realize something was wrong, he began to use terms like, what the hell is he talking about? He started cussing. That is an unusual play for a public official, but it is not unusual for those who are struggling within themselves to find the right answer.
Doug, 100% correct. And I'll tell you what was interesting to me. I'm in New York. I was doing NBC and some other stuff last night. The pile on from the media here, as if they just found Jesus on this all of a sudden, like we hadn't seen this forever. Yeah. But here's what was fascinating to me. It does make me worry. I need to put a tinfoil hat on. It does make me worry that all of a sudden they're kind of like giving the off ramp all in unison, as Democrats are wanting to do. Everything's in, they say the same thing all the time. But basically what the media was saying was, listen, we've been covering for this guy for decades. We definitely been covering for him for the last 4 years. Now it's impossible to cover for him. Joe, Democrats, help us help you. We've been helping you. We've been there. We've been covering it all up. We've accused them of cheap. We even made up a term, cheap fakes. Please, Lord God, you've done great, man. I'm telling you, we can't cover for you anymore. I found that to be kind of odd for them. But look, had Joe Biden gotten out a lot earlier and said, listen, I've done what I came to do. I beat Donald Trump. I got the economy back, and now I'm stepping aside. That's one thing. Now he would do it in failure. It would look like, okay, now you're over the hill. Everyone knows it. You had a horrible debate performance, et cetera. I don't think he has the self-awareness. Definitely, his confidence is way overblown for no reason. I think he's going to try. His ego is not going to let him get out of the race at this point.
Now, Jill, at this point, and I want to finish that thought because I think it's right. And going here, let's also deal with the fact they can't. Here's their other problem: they can't get rid of Joe Biden. The Democrats for years have so tightened their process on their Democratic convention and their delegate counts. And remember, delegates to the Democratic convention come from the organizations. They don't come from delegates in the Republican Party, which are very conservative, but come from individuals. They come from the teachers' unions, the other unions. They're all walking in a straight line. And they're told how they have to vote by not only the rules in many states, but also the rules of the convention. Jill Biden and the ones closest to Joe are the only ones that can convince Joe to stop this. And then this goes back into Obama kicking him to the side in 2016. This goes back into the whole issue of y'all have always thought that I was the idiot from Scranton and y'all have always made fun of me. I'll show you now. And look, the worst thing that came across last night from most Americans is they saw how bad it was, but then they saw Jill defend it and enable it. And I think that walking off the stage last night was awful. He had to turn sideways to get down to the first step. And then when she got to the event, said, Joe, you did so well. You answered every question. We're not in kindergarten. This is the president of the United States.
Joe, you did such a great job. You answered every question. You knew all the facts.
Amazing. Grace Curley, real quick. I still can't get over this because I first of all, I'll associate myself everything with Doug said, just to be clear. One, Biden is bitter about how he was treated by Obama in 2016. So he's not going to let Obama come in and tell him what to do. 2, the only person that could do this is Jill. The rules are such that the only way he gets replaced is if he chooses to step aside. I think that Doug and Hogan are right. His ego won't let him do this, Grace. And that's the thing, is that I think they set off alarm bells. I just don't think that there's a fire department that can come put out the fire now.
Yeah, Doug's right on the money about what was the worst video from last night. I mean, obviously, there were some from the debate that are going to go around. But as all of us know, if you watch Joe Biden for more than 5 minutes, you've heard all these things before. Like this, a lot of last night was just his best ofs. I mean, there wasn't really a mumbling mess up that I hadn't heard before. But Jill Biden looking at the audience and saying, and what does Donald Trump do? He lies. It was like Edith Wilson or something. You got this look of this woman who's power hungry and just wants this so badly. And the part of that I find weird is that, you look at Hillary Clinton or you look at some of these first ladies throughout history and you think, well, some people have political ambitions of their own. Some people feel like I'll be the first lady and then someday I'll be something. For Jill, I really think that it's as shallow as it gets. I think she likes flying private. I think she likes the fancy houses. She likes the Vogue covers. I really think this is just about the stuff. And every woman I talked to today, and I'm not exaggerating, every single woman who's called me up, my mom, the people I work with, all said the same thing. It was sad. That's what they said. They didn't come in mocking Joe Biden. They didn't come in saying, Trump killed it, we're going to win. Every woman came in and said, that was really sad. And I think that that's what's going to stick with people is who let this man do this.
Okay, let's do 2 quick around the rooms, and then I want to Hogan, I want to talk to you about the Trump reaction based on what Grace just said. But I'm not as old as Joe Biden, but I'll forget things if I don't do them. So real quick, I want to just ask you guys, do you think that for whatever reason, let's answer the elephant in the room. Will Joe Biden, on his own volition or otherwise, be replaced before the convention? Hogan Gidley, yes or no? Grace Curley, yes or no?
I'm going to say yes.
Doug Collins, yes or no?
No.
Okay. I will say one quick other note that I want to make sure I bring up. I've talked to you guys in the show about this before, but because no one gave anyone in the Biden campaign for either Christmas or Hanukkah a calendar, they missed the Ohio ballot deadline. They must nominate him now virtually before August 7th. The clock is ticking to do this, and I just want to make sure that we're on record because this ties into understanding how the game works. Next question. Hypothetically, if Joe Biden said, you know what, I do need to step aside, I realize this for a myriad of reasons, who cares? Who would be the next logical person in line? Hogan
Gavin
Gidley.
Newsom.
Grace Curley.
Gavin Newsom.
Doug Collins.
They got nowhere else to go. This is a scene from the Officer and a Gentleman. I got no place else to go. They got to go to Harris.
But this was a debate that your campaign wanted. You pushed for this debate at this moment. Obviously, I mean, you can't honestly say. I mean, can you say that you are not concerned at all having watched the president's performance tonight?
It was a slow start. That's obvious to everyone. I'm not going to debate that point.
Because if not, they destroy their whole model. Yeah. And here in the 68 convention is all of a sudden reborn in Chicago in 2024. They got a problem. Look, and here's the other thing. I'm going to expand a second. I know it's a yes, no, but let me expand. Who wants to ruin their 2028 results here? Why would Newsom step into right now, which is already pulling toward Trump, already going? Why would he ruin 2028 for him when there's no incumbent on the ballot? Why would anybody on the Democratic Party side, except Kamala? She's willingly went into this role. She's the one that they would. I mean, you replace the first African-American female vice president. In this party, they can't even get along with the Arab Palestinian side of their party because of their views. Do you think by jumping another group, it's just not going to happen,
her,
folks?
Doug, is by definition in the box they've created sexist, racist, and bigoted. Okay?
Yes.
So that's the deal.
Well, here's the better one. Here's the better one, though. And we've not even talked about this. By even mentioning the fact of replacing Joe Biden, who has been legitimately elected by primary voters. They're the ones that are overturning democracy here.
Great replacement
God,
theory.
this is so good.
Overturning democracy. Doug Collins for the win.
But by the way, I will tell you this. I have long maintained that for Biden, his sense of accomplishment is all about legacy. I appointed this many people, and that he wants to ensure that if he's not going to be the person, he's not going to hand it off to a white straight guy. He's going to hand it off to Kamala Harris because he wants to say that he nominated. It's not that he appointed, he anointed the first black female, right? That's going to be his theory. So I'm telling you that in my mind is what's going to happen because for all the reasons we discussed, but he wants to be able to say, I did this.
Yeah, but if they kick him out, if they're successful in removing him, he's not going to have a say. As I said,
but Hogan, can I just ask you this? When you say they, and this is why I always say that it's important to understand the rules. The they is him. The only one that can stop Joe Biden from being the nominee is him. There's no they.
Yes, but the pressure that the Democrats, the intelligentsia, the glitterati, put on him to get him out. Once he's out, he doesn't have a say. Like, he's out.
No, right. But once he's out, but my point is to get him out. You're right. Once he decides he's done and he's going to Rehoboth in Delaware, yes. But the only way that happens is by him choosing.
Yes, but I mean, once it happens, it's a free-for-all. And I'm just telling you, their desire to gain and maintain that power is so big, they're not going to go to somebody who has popularity in Kamala Harris lower than COVID. They're just not.
But they're not going to hand it off to Gavin Newsom. The they wants power, and the they keeps power with Kamala, and they roll the dice and take the chances and try to juice maybe the black vote in some of these cities.
Look, we're missing something here, folks. We're missing something, and I'm just interjecting, and y'all talk about it. You input anybody else in here, you're reshuffling the map. Gavin Newsom comes on the ballot. Georgia's no longer even remotely a swing state. North Carolina, no longer remotely a swing state. Michigan probably then becomes even tighter. Wisconsin possibly is not a swing state. Gavin Newsom is more liberal and more outspoken and has more bad in the back closet stuff as far as policy goes than Biden or anybody else because nobody knows about it and can be brought out. These folks are also political animals. They don't want to ruin what they could have. I only see Harris and Harris only, and that'll be where it goes. But if not, look, why would you do this? But you also got to take into account it reshuffles the electoral map in Trump's favor in many ways.
I think that's an interesting point.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Grace? Can I ask a question? Can I play host?
Hold on, I'm going to unmic you.
Do we have another debate that's scheduled, right? They set 2.
September 10th.
Do we think that happens?
If I'm Trump, I don't let it happen.
Yeah, because he's done his damage. It's like, okay, I'm good.
If I'm Trump, I'm done.
Do you think the VP one happens?
Yeah, probably so.
Here's another one for you. I thought based on how well last night went, if I were Trump, I would hold off till as late as possible to announce the VP. Ride this wave. Do not get in. I mean, Doug had a great analogy at the beginning about, not getting in the way of somebody who's hurting themselves, basically, right? Politically. And I think today, if you're Trump, do not do anything. Hogan Gidley, this is what I wanted to ask you about. What is your advice to Team Trump today? They had a great night. Biden had a bad night. What do you tell them about how they should be messaging today?
Well, I've seen some clips online of mashups that Team Trump put out of Biden, just the mumbling and the stumbling verbally on stage. I think flooding the zone with that, because it reminds people of what they saw. And I think they've been doing the right thing. He's been doing different rallies in different places, going into communities that may not necessarily like him, coming off of this wave of this stark reality that Joe Biden is in such decline only helps him. So far, they've been doing things the right way. Now, I would argue, Sean and Doug, Grace, I don't know if you know this better than anybody, but I know these two do because they did this for a living. And Doug, you've run for office. The ground game here is going to matter still more than most anything else. And the left has built one that is massive. Chances are Democrats could ask governors to change laws again at the last minute just to upend things. Who knows? they're not going to just go gently into that good night. I mean, they're going to fight here. So we just have to be ready for that. If the Trump team keeps doing what they're doing, talking about the issues, Trump going out there doing his riffs, I think they'll be in good shape. But Democrats are going to try to sling something past us, no question.
Grace, I worry about, as I said, I think that Trump should basically just let this keep setting in. Let the Democrats and the media talk about Joe Biden. Don't give them a chance to change the narrative. So kind of stay back a little. Be careful. Don't dance on the guy's grave, because the media right now, I think, is looking for a reason to pivot away. They had their piece. They've said their say. I don't want to give them a reason to go after Trump for anything. If I'm Trump, say, step back a second. Let them continue to analyze how bad this night was for Biden.
Yeah, that's really, really hard for Trump to do. I mean, whenever he gets a really good news day, he has this like instinct to, okay, they're not talking bad about me right now, so I want to make sure that they focus back on me. It's one of my biggest, one of my biggest criticisms of Trump. However, Grace Curley over here should take a second look, because I was ready last night for him to kind of go off the handles, and he did seem like he changed a little bit. He did seem calm. He did seem like he had a little bit of self-restraint. So you know what? I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say maybe he's looking at this. Maybe he's taking advice from the people around him, and he's going to say, take the foot off, the pedal, and just let it ride a little bit. Like, ride these things. You get a win. You should ride it for as long as you can, and then change the news cycle. This is the news cycle. Sometimes though, when people aren't talking about him, he gets kind of antsy. Yeah. Like, yeah, Biden was bad, but guess what? And it's like, no, just let it go. Let it ride.
Doug, last night I kept thinking to myself, I don't know if Hogan had a moment like this in the White House, but we have the first joint address to Congress. The president crushes it. I mean, I have photos. We're standing there showing him all of these Democratic operatives. Look at what this guy said. Look at what this woman said. Look at what right? And it's everybody saying the president, I don't like him. I don't support him, but he did a great job tonight. That was an amazing speech. And I'm just like riding the wave, like we're having a good day. And then it was probably 48 hours later. I walked down, I opened the back door to the press secretary's office. The president, I'd get a heads up, he's on his way to the office. And so he'd have to walk kind of by my back door on the way into the Oval Office. And he had just tweeted, and he looks at me and he goes, "Don't say it, Sean. I had to do it. I had to do it." And that's when he tweeted about Mika Brzezinski and the blood and all this stuff. And I said, "Did you really? We were having a great day." And he was just like, "I couldn't stand it. And that's what Grace is alluding to, I think. It's that he's on the wave. Just surf it, buddy. Keep going. I mean, he put on a great performance. Biden didn't. Own this.
Yeah, look, I've said this before. I think, and no offense to anywhere else, but this is the different campaign in 2024 that we saw in 2020 that we saw in 2016. I think 2016 was the surprise campaign. 2020 was the fighting the world campaign. And now 2024 with La Savita and with Wiles and others at the top of this, you're seeing it. Let Trump go be Trump in the places he's best at, but also say, hey, look, here's the way we actually make a difference. I think today it'll be interesting, because he's leaving Atlanta, going to a rally in Virginia. It'll be interesting to see. Glenn Youngkin's going to be there with him. We'll see how that all works. I agree that my concern, though, takes away from the campaign. Donald Trump will be Donald Trump, and that's what makes him Donald Trump, and that's what I believe will elect him president. The issue is, though, I'm concerned now, and again, I'm always even after the celebration starts, well, maybe we could have done something different. I'm concerned that everybody now is going to be saying, oh, see, Biden's an idiot, we're going to win, and that ground game issue, that book the vote issue, that people are going to say, they're going to take not the campaign, but the volunteers, the grathers in the GOP meetings are going to say, we can't lose this. And the problem is as Hogan said earlier, Grace has talked about, there is a ground game out there that will vote for Joe Biden no matter what.
Yep.
And really, I'm going to say it's about a 45-45. You're still got a 10% that we've got to convince. So, look, Trump needs to be Trump, but I want to say an interesting, yes, hold off on the VP nomination. If you needed the VP nomination for something that went haywire at the debate last night, then you announce that today. Okay, that would have been something to do, but it didn't. And I don't think it would, but it was something you always had that Biden didn't have. Biden doesn't have a big announcement to deflect today. Trump could have.
Yeah.
But he didn't, and he did so well last night. Look, I still think 30 minutes he won it. He cruised the rest of the time. And I think that was it. People had turned off by 9:30. It was over.
All right, let's pivot a second. Hogan Gidley, how did CNN do last night?
Seemed like they did pretty well. There was one moment where Biden lost his train of thought, dropped his head, and then they kind of jumped in to ask a question to Trump to kind of save Biden a little bit. So there was one where I was like, okay, whatever. But for the most part, I think they were concerned about being biased, and they were unbiased, it seemed. However, it seems, I would say, they overcorrected for CNN. Does that make sense? A lot of people
well, but I also think that they got all their issues in, right? It was democracy, January 6th.
Abortion.
It was like we need to abortion. We need to make sure that we show that we're tough enough on Trump. I think that it was like we were grading on a curve. Grace Curley, what did you think about how CNN handled itself?
I actually had that in my notes for my show today. Grading on a curve, I give them like a B-, but or I would say I give them a B-, and then with the bell curve, I would give them like an A-, because I was pleasantly surprised at how little they chimed in. I think that's the point of moderators. You're really there just to facilitate a conversation. In a perfect world, we wouldn't need moderators. You could have two adults on the stage having a back and forth. That's never going to happen in today's day and age. But I did think that there were a few questions, like you mentioned, January 6th. You could see the slant. But overall, I thought they were pretty fair. And I do wish there had been like a clock in the background, because I agree with Hogan. There were a couple of times where Biden was talking and it just didn't feel to me, and this could just be me, my own bias, but it didn't feel to me like it had been the allotted amount of time. It didn't feel like 30 seconds had gone by or a minute. And Dana Bash would say, okay, next question. And I'm like, did we let him run out the clock on that? Because he was going somewhere. I don't know if it's somewhere we wanted him to go, but he was going somewhere.
I think on a curve. Doug, I got a couple more things I want to hit on, but how did you think CNN did?
I think fine. Okay. Better than I thought. I think better than I predicted. They were is interesting enough. I'll compare this is restrained and as focused as Trump was. I think Tapper and Bash were as well. And they did come back a few times when they said, you got 80 seconds left, Mr. President. You got 35 seconds left. Would you like to try and answer the question? And look, whether we like it or not, J6, democracy, abortion, those are all valid questions. Okay. We may not like them, but they were valid questions.
All right.
So, you knew they were coming. And actually, Donald Trump handled them fairly well.
All right. Let me just say, what issue didn't come up that you were surprised by, Hogan Gidley?
Oh, gosh. I don't know of one that I was just kind of shocked that didn't.
Does anyone have one? Grace or Doug, is there something that you were like, wow, I can't believe that didn't come up?
Maybe not come up. I think Trump could have been a lot harder on the criminal issue instead. But I think the ones that surprised me is what did come up. The meat and potatoes issue of child care, which both candidates did not answer, period. They just blew the question off completely. And so for me, it wasn't what they didn't ask.
What about China? Were you afraid? I kind of was a little taken back that military defense, like veterans, none of they talked about veterans in the sense that they attacked each other on it. But in terms of military VA care, China's economic threat, China's military threat, that didn't seem to kind of come up. Grace Curley, you've got your hand up.
I would have really liked to talk more about the golf game of each candidate.
I do too. They got the driving in, but what about the short game?
The short game. Like, I want to know about the putting.
Grace, the only time they got offended with each other was when they talked about their golf game. It was the only time they got offended. But Sean, I want to go back to your point, though. You got to also remember this is Jake Tapper and Dana Bash. They do not understand military. They do not understand China. Yeah. Okay. So it didn't surprise me that it didn't come up in direct questions. It came up in indirect questions on this. Look, it was a CNN lean debate. And I think that was, so I think from that perspective, I don't grade on a curve in life. It was a solid performance. I'll just say in the sense that it happened. The night was Joe Biden, and they did not get in the middle of Joe Biden. I think that was the one thing that I did.
Last thing I want to ask is this. Did the RFK counter-programmed? Is RFK going to be a factor And we got like 20 seconds for each of you. Will RFK be a factor?
Didn't watch a single thing he said after the debate, not because I don't think he has valid things to say, but because this is obviously a two-man race. I think there are people out there in this country who are looking for third-party candidates. They always have. This goes back decades in this country. I don't think he's going to be a major factor, except for where he is on the ballot. He'll siphon more votes away from Biden than Donald Trump. And here's how you know, without even asking questions, because the media doesn't want him on the ballot. That's the bottom line.
Yeah. Grace Curley, will RFK make a difference?
You know, I read yesterday that RFK is making inroads with Black voters. And I think in that sense, that could really be damaging to Joe Biden, just because he is already bleeding in that demographic because of Trump. So when you think about it, Trump only needs to get a pretty low percentage of Black voters to crush Joe Biden. And if RFK Jr. helps him out and takes even more of that demographic away, that's bad news for the Democrats. And I agree with Hogan. It's like, if they don't want him on there, there's a reason for it. It's not because he's going to be helping Trump.
Doug Collins, 20 seconds. Does RFK make a difference?
Who?
Exactly. All right.
I mean,
yeah, exactly. Okay.
Yeah.
By the way, I'll talk about this on Monday's show, but Jill Stein got federal matching funds from the Federal Election Commission. I'm going to talk about why that matters next week. But third parties could make a big difference. I appreciate you guys being with me today. So much to cover. Obviously, that golf game was very crucial. And we came up with a new issue for the replacement theory, which is important. Have a great weekend, everyone. Continue to subscribe. Hit the notification. Thanks for everyone who was part of that live discussion, as I mentioned earlier. That's why you got to hit the notification, the subscribe button, everyone. YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeart, wherever you get them. Download the Front Row Joe's movie this weekend. Take a look at it, salemnow.com. I'll see you back here on Monday. Thanks for being with us. Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.